first and foremost want to recognize the President of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Mr. Eze Alaba, the Secretary General of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Mr. Oke Onua, and the National Treasurer, Dr. Iyobosa, Mr. Richard Akinola, Mr. Benga Adefaye, editors and members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors in the room, ladies and gentlemen of the press. This is a joint statement by SERAP and the Nigerian Guild of Editors. As the international community marks World Human Rights Day today, SERAP and the NG are concerned about the continuing use of repressive laws, including the Cybercrimes Act and strategic lawsuit against public participation, called SLAPS, to intimidate and harass journalists, activists, and civil society organizations, of which SERAP is not left out as a victim. The use of these repressive laws, as we come to find out, and SLAP erodes democracy, respect for human rights, and the rule of law in Nigeria. And I also pray, most sincere, that none of us in this room will fall a victim. You can say your amen privately or publicly. The use of these repressive laws and SLAP to crack down on peaceful dissent is entirely inconsistent with the Nigerian Constitution as amended and Nigeria's international human rights obligations. Security agencies, as we come to find out, acting for both state and non-state actors, have weaponized the Cybercrimes Act using provisions, particularly in the Notorious Section 24 of that same act, on what is termed cyberstalking, to intimidate and harass journalists, activists, and members of civil society organizations who are merely exercising their rights to press freedom and freedom of expression. Particularly, the police and the DSS stands out as the major perpetrators of this wrongful use of laws. The restrictions on the civic space, the human rights violations that we've noted, and the suppression of the press in recent times takes various forms, as we come to find out, ranging from extrajudicial to unlawful arrest, detentions, malicious prosecutions, and the wrongful use of both legislation and law enforcement processes. Instances of this misuse abound. And I'll give some very briefly, since these are also in the public domain, and I'm sure everyone in this room is well aware of these facts. In August 2024 alone, at least 56 journalists were either assaulted or arrested while covering demonstrations across Nigeria. According to Reporters Without Borders, Nigeria has dropped 10 spots, to be the 122nd in the 2025 World Press Freedom Index. I'm sure the Ministry of Information will perhaps not share this kind of information. The Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, CJID Press Tracker, indicated that there were 110 verified attacks in the year 2024 alone. And these, when you compare it to the previous year in 2023, between the first and the third quarter, surpassed that of the total one for the year 2023. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, also stated that there are at least 3 journalists in Nigeria that have been detained since August 2025 on allegations of violating Nigeria's Cybercrimes Act, despite the recent reform of the law. The law was amended, but the use of some of the troubling sections still continue. And this highlights the continuing use of the law and defamation laws to target and harass journalists and activists, and those who are deemed critical of government policies. Another example I would like to give shortly was an investigative journalist and publisher of a private-owned secret reporters news outlet, one Tega Gobanodara, known under the pen name of Fejiro Olima, has been behind bars from the 18th September this year over charges of cyberbullying. The police has arrested him in Abuja and flew him to Delta State. And as we come to see, the perpetrators of these ills have grown from being state actors to non-state actors. They have included celebrities, people of influence, politically exposed persons, and anybody that has any kind of calling, including people, social media influencers, who perceive what other people said online as cyberbullying. Also, on September 9, police in Ekiti State detained one Sadiq Atanda, a reporter with a privately owned Foundation for Investigative Journalism (FIJ), on allegations of cyberbullying, criminal defamation, and malicious misrepresentation. The federal government recently charged Sahara Reporters publisher and activist Mr. Omoyele Sowore alongside X and Facebook owners over Mr. Showore's alleged anti-Tinubu posts on social media. Two of the counts against him, as exist in the public domain, are brought under the Cyber Crimes Act, while other three relate to criminal defamation. And that reminds me of the remarks that have been made here today. I remember Mr. Somers speaking about what is patriotism, what is nationalism, particularly when the voices that have been shared appears to be against the government of the day. The suit was filed in September 2025, and the charges were brought by the DSS against Mr. Sowore on behalf of the federal government. The DSS had also, in May this year, filed a slap lawsuit against Professor Pat Utomi, a former presidential candidate in the country, accusing him of attempting to illegally assault the president's executive powers by setting up what is termed a shadow government. DSS operatives last year, 2024, also filed a slap lawsuit against Sarah over allegations of what we had seen clearly as a case of invasion. I was named as the second defendant in that suit, and they are collectively asking for 5 billion naira. I wonder where we get that. And I recollect, it resonated with me when Dr. Iboza alluded to the amount that research had showed was spent on fake false news. I think it was the US, he mentioned that research area. I think something in the region of more than 70 billion. When you compare that to 5 billion, perhaps our case in Serap is better. The case is going on as we speak and has been adjourned till next year. These cases, as we come to see, illustrate the ongoing harassment, intimidation, and misuse of laws and judicial processes in Nigeria to stifle the peaceful activities of journalists, activists, and CSOs, and to curtail the exercise of free expression across Nigeria. And this does not leave out citizens online who are deemed to be critical of government policies or actions. The Nigerian authorities viewed all this despite the fact that Serap had filed a lawsuit at the ECOWAS court challenging the compatibility of the provisions of the Cyber Crimes Act with the constitutional right to freedom of expression. The suit is yet to be heard. The federal government has been served, and they are yet to file their responses. You recall that Serap had gone to court earlier, some years ago, and the ECOWAS court had ruled in favor of the Nigerian people, not only Serap as a plaintiff, that certain provisions of the Cyber Crimes Act, particularly Section 24, offends the provisions of the African Charter and the Nigerian Constitution on freedom of expression, which I know is very important to everybody in this room and all Nigerians generally. We are concerned that the Nigerian authorities at all levels and other actors continue to use these repressive laws and misuse the judicial processes to normalize repression of the rights of journalists, activists, opposition politicians, artists, and every other Nigerian that are deemed as critical of government. We are also concerned about the persistence of threats to journalist safety and the potential chilling effect of strategic lawsuits against public participation.